Networking is no longer what we think it is, and I am so happy that it has changed. We have this image in our minds where we attend events, we're wearing these fancy clothes, we have a purse or a pocket full of business cards, and we are there to be smart. We're there to say something smart, or that is the pressure that we put on ourselves. The conventional way of networking has changed. We no longer have to be present and in person at those events. Yes, there were obviously benefits to being in those events, but even for the most extroverted person, those events can be really anxiety inducing and really stressful. So thankfully, the conventional method of networking has changed, and now we have so many other opportunities to meet people, to introduce ourselves, to make connections, to build relationships. And we don't have to do this in person in a very anxiety-inducing environment or a very stressful environment, which is something even the most extroverted person could feel in those spaces. Recently, a subscriber sent a message asking my recommendations for networking for people who are really socially anxious, and what or how would they be able to network and build connections and find job opportunities. So this video is going to be all about that for the introverted, for the person, maybe you're an extrovert, but you still don't feel comfortable when it comes to networking. It's totally understandable. Don't be too hard on yourselves. This video is all about that. I'm going to share a couple of tips about networking, considering that times have changed, spaces have changed, and now we have other alternatives for networking as well. And I came up with these tips thinking mostly about the introverted people, the people who feel uncomfortable with networking, or they don't know how to do this. They just can't warm up with this idea. But I think these could also be helpful for extroverted people who still don't feel comfortable in networking environments or networking situations. So stick around to hack this thing called networking, and let's just crack this puzzle. My number one tip is to reshape your idea of networking, and this is so important. Things have changed. We just need to accept it. Yes, I had this very traditional image when it came to networking as well. That is how things used to be when I originally graduated and then started to look for jobs back in the day. Now, fast forward to today, X many years, I don't want to mention the years now. Things have changed, and I'm so glad they have, because there is so many other opportunities. There is so many different types of spaces that we can meet people, that we can introduce ourselves, and we don't even have to show our faces. And that just makes a lot of difference for people who are more on the introverted side. Some of us are more introverted, but still we feel more comfortable when we're, on the keyboard and we're talking through a screen. That makes a lot of difference. So we need to realize that networking doesn't only happen in person anymore. If you had that idea, wipe it out of your mind. You can meet people anywhere and everywhere these days. That can be Facebook groups, that can be LinkedIn, that can be Instagram, that can be Twitter. A lot of people are actually using Twitter really well to make connections, to build connections. So that could be another platform. You could meet people in Discord, you could meet people in meetups, which is again another online community that focuses on meetups. Basically, that's the name of the business. You could also meet people in Slack groups if you join any of these groups that are formed for around a shared interest of some sort. So those are all opportunities to meet people, and whichever one feels more comfortable for you. I mean, you could be a Reddit person or a Quora person, and you could meet people on those platforms for all I care. So just be aware that there is so many other opportunities than how it used to be. And this is going to hopefully give you less anxiety when it comes to meeting people, introducing yourself, because yes, introducing yourself to someone who you have no idea about and who you're potentially asking something from, yes, it can still feel vulnerable, but hopefully less stressful, because you don't have to improvise. You don't have to be there in person if that is something that scared you in the past or in the conventional ways of networking. So that's number one. Second tip is focus on common interests and don't make networking your main purpose. So you're meeting people, that's a full stop. You're meeting people and you're building relationships. So when you put the word, or when you put that concept of networking on top of it, I feel that even using the word can also be stress inducing. So maybe take that out of the equation completely and think of it as you are meeting with people that could potentially have common interests, and really focus on what are your shared interests. Do you have anything in common? Maybe you went to the same university, maybe you studied the same degree, maybe you share a hobby, maybe you both like to do canoeing or paddleboarding or skiing, whatever that is. If you're able to find something specific actually for the common interest, that's even better. But when you are meeting people, think of it as only meeting people and building relationships versus networking and trying to get an outcome from that communication, that conversation. My third tip is to set your expectations. Don't overwhelm yourself by thinking that you have to meet everyone in the room, whether that's a physical room or whether that's a virtual room. You don't have to meet everyone in the room. You don't have to be the most confident person in the room. You don't have to be the best speaker in the room. You don't have to be the best. And usually we put that pressure on our own shoulders. We tell ourselves that we need to be perfect with our speech. We need to have this perfect elevator pitch. And that is really not the case. You can make mistakes, and that is okay. I mean, especially in the virtual space, if you make a mistake, you can also edit your messages too. So if that feels more safe for you, maybe start there, and then you can start to build more confidence and you can change your space. Maybe you can start meeting people in person afterwards as well. But again, like, it's not about the in-person versus virtual, but it's more so about overwhelming yourself and putting a lot of pressure in terms of, I have to be the most confident person in the room. I have to give the best elevator pitch. I have to sell my services, and I have to get a job opportunity, or have to make a business deal out of this conversation. So don't put that pressure on yourself. You are starting, these are conversations. We don't get a result from every conversation we have with any person in our lives. So don't pressure yourself to be in that position when you are meeting people. Also, under this expectations piece is to have a plan. Maybe you're attending an event with 100 people, or maybe you are joining a group that has thousands of people, who knows? You are not going to be able to realistically meet every single person in the room, or in that chat group, or in that virtual group that you're joining. Have a plan. How many people do you want to meet? Maybe that could be a goal that you put for yourself, as well as what is the expected outcome for you to invest your time into that networking opportunity, those conversations. What is your expected outcome? Come up with that and have that end goal in your mind when you are joining a group or entering that conversation. Have something in your mind, and also at any point, if you feel you need space, you need a breather, you need to be on your own. That happens to everyone, that we can get exhausted from having conversations all the time. So if you need some time to breathe, to go outside, to take a moment for yourself, do that. Give a pause and then come back. It is totally okay. And I think it's even okay to be straightforward about this communication as well. Like, I need space to breathe. I need space to think. And then let's recontinue the conversation afterwards. That is totally okay. My fourth tip is to have some conversation openers, icebreakers, however they are called. Have some email and message templates as well that you want to maybe use in your outreach, or maybe use as a follow-up message. So if you have these kinds of things that are maybe, documented in your Google Drive or in your Notion pages, if you already have that somewhere, if you spend some time writing that down, then you have already spent some time to practice that as well. That is going to make things a little bit easier for you. It is somewhat similar to preparing in front of a mirror, which is again an image that I have from this conventional way of networking, as I mentioned. But now what I do is, if I want to practice something, I definitely write it down. I have my notes, and even though I may not have my notes with me in that moment of conversation, they are still helpful because I can, my memory recalls from what I wrote down. A couple of questions that I wrote down for you are: what brings you here? What are you working on right now? You could also ask questions about their stories. I think that is always a good way of approaching these conversations, to have people tell you their stories. And I feel that actually builds stronger bonds than just doing small talk. So if you're able to have conversations around their stories, the reason why they are there, the reason why they're excited to be a part of that group or attend that event. Those are always better than talking about the weather, or if you're feeling uncomfortable with introducing yourself, talking about yourself, which is usually a difficult thing to do. We don't know how to explain ourselves, or we don't know how to do it without coming across as too confident or too passive. So the right balance is a pretty difficult place to find. So if you simply don't feel very comfortable talking about your own story, then you can kind of switch it around and ask about their story. So that is this tip. Let's move on to the next one. Give first, then ask. I think this should be a rule of thumb that we always follow in every case we meet someone. Naturally, we have this wrong way of approaching networking where we are really focused on the outcome. We want to, I don't know, maybe we want a job opportunity and we are approaching someone to ask about an opportunity. Maybe it already exists. You want to introduce yourself as a candidate, or you want to introduce yourself because there is no opportunity, but you want to make yourself known and you want to basically share that you are looking for a job. So that is your expected outcome from that conversation, potential, right? This is just a scenario. But when you strictly focus on what you want to get out of that conversation, it can really feel annoying for the person across the table, because what are you providing them in exchange of asking for that opportunity? And we should always ask ourselves, why should this person care that I am looking for a job and that I'm desperate to get a job ASAP? What's in it for them? Like, why should they care, and why should they prioritize our ask or our connection request because we're looking for a job? We should be looking to give first. What is the value that we can provide them? What is something that we can give to them in exchange of the request that we have from them? Like, can we provide any value to them? Can we maybe connect them to someone that they're looking to connect with? Or maybe they are looking for contributions on an article that they have written, or maybe sharing of something that they have posted on social media. I don't know what it is, but you can go be creative and find the value that you can give in exchange of that person's time and attention to your request. And my final tip is to don't beat yourself for awkward silences. They happen all the time. They happen to the best of us in the best conversation possible. They can happen anytime. And I realize that mostly people who are more introverted or have more social anxiety, they tend to really beat themselves up for having those awkward moments of silence where you don't know what to say, you don't know how to continue the conversation, or you feel like the person you're having a conversation isn't really paying attention to you, or they're not interested in what you're saying, or you just don't know what to say. It happens. It's okay. Again, if you need space to think, or if you feel that conversation is not going anywhere, or if it's giving you just too much anxiety, then distance yourself from that moment. I mean, awkward silences happen all the freaking time, and it's okay. Best thing you can do is to give it a laugh and assure yourself it's okay. And let me give you a secret. You're going to survive this too. All right, friends, that's a wrap of my tips for networking. Hopefully you found these helpful. If you have other tips you'd like to add, go ahead, share them in the comments below so that other people can see this as well. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos on marketing, career, and work life. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.